In the year 2157, humanity has eradicated terrorism, starvation, and conflict by developing the great theory of education. The natural world has healed, medical science has progressed to the point where individuals may be saved from any illness, and space travel is now commonplace. Max is evading calls from his family, who want him to return to college, while he is exploring the universe in his own spacecraft. When an asteroid strikes the ship unexpectedly and seriously destroys it, Max must prepare for an emergency landing. Sadly, the ship can no longer be navigated, and it crashes on the closest planet. Max escapes just in time to prevent it from blowing up, leaving him stranded on this alien continent. As he explores the area, he finds evidence of a blaze and comes upon a monster that appears to be hiding nearby. Max tries to talk to the monster, but it flees when a soldier by the name of ZF suddenly discovers them, aims his rifle at Max, and says something he doesn't understand. The soldier shoots at the belt to make Max lose it before arresting him and bringing him to the closest town when Max takes a small translation gadget from his belt and inserts it into his ear. Max is shocked to realize that the settlement resembles a desolate version of Earth that he has only ever seen in history books. He is taken to a lab where he is questioned by scientists wearing helmets to see into his thoughts. Despite this, they do not think he is extraterrestrial, and it is agreed that he will be taken to a mental hospital in the capital, escorted by Soldier Guy. Everyone in the vicinity then begins fervently shouting the national anthem and swearing allegiance to the government. ZF, however, passes out during a seizure and is hauled away by the police. Max observes the terrible condition of the town and several enormous towers every few miles on the route to the city. Guy clarifies that they serve as defense against adversaries. At that very moment, a tower's base explodes, causing it to fall into the road, killing a few people as they attempt to flee and destroying the majority of the trucks. Guy becomes trapped beneath the debris when a massive metal road pierces Max's truck, but Max acts quickly and powerfully to remove Guy out of the way before the approaching flames reach them. Max then finds out that the towers are necessary because rebels are attempting to overthrow the government. They are now forced to carry out the remainder of their journey on foot. When Strider, the head of the Department of Special Research, learns of it as soon as they get to the capital, he instructs his staff member Funk to bring Max to his office. Max is being held at a hazardous facility in the interim, where he is confined within a water tank to continue to examine his psyche. But Funk stops the experiments when he takes Max away against the scientist's desires by using Strider's badge. In the meantime, State Prosecutor Umnik requests that his staff member monitor any updates regarding Max while they are in the government building. Then, realizing the hour, Umnik ducks into his bathroom to undergo the seizure alone. Funk had to find another route as he drives Max away and discovers that the road is blocked. He's anxious because he's starting to notice the time, and that's when he starts experiencing seizures. The people in the area start chanting in support of the government as the police arrive to haul him up, calling Max a degenerate for not joining in. Max takes advantage of the confusion and flees right away. It is revealed in the government building that the Unknown Fathers, who include Strike and Umnik, are in charge of a dictatorship that rules the nation. The fact that the other fathers instantly execute the mistake-making father demonstrates their ruthlessness towards one another. Max finds himself in a bar after spending some time exploring the city on his own. There, he meets Rada, the waitress, and he immediately starts to feel smitten. Additionally, he witnesses another patron becoming overly intimate with her, to which Max promptly confronts him. The man tries to hit Max with his cane because he is furious, but Max rushes quickly and disarms him, injuring his arm to scare him away. Rada and Max talk a lot during the remainder of the afternoon. Rada is revealed to be Guy's sister when Max educates her about Earth and space. Max is also invited to stay at her house. The previous customer blocks their path as they are leaving, ready for retaliation. Even with his help, Max is still quicker than him and avoids their sword blows right away. The men then engage in hand-to-hand combat, but Max scarcely feels their blows, and he quickly dispatches them. The other members of the gang then show up with more powerful weapons, but Max is able to combat them all at once regardless of their number. Max only utilizes these weapons to pull the opponent around and finish knocking them out when a man suddenly grabs his leg with a rope and then grabs his neck with a whip. When the cane man is the only one left, he launches a tiny, blade-wielding sphere at Max, who easily avoids it. Guy returns home later to Rada's residence and is startled to see Max, but he remembers how he saved him and lets him stay. Days go by, and Max discovers a lot about the customs and culture of the area, such as the fact that his ideas are being projected onto the TV screen like a motion picture. It is also taught to the locals that there are no other planets or stars and that they actually reside inside the planet. According to history, the Unknown Fathers used the towers to halt the fight against the rebels referred to as degenerates, and save the nation. Guy invites Max to join him as a guard and is really excited about wanting to protect his house. Guy needs to persuade Commander Chachu to permit Max to join since he lacks an identity card and any paperwork. Max must first complete training, which entails learning the chant and participating in mission trials where he must shoot at signs that depict degenerates, and run through locations that are on fire. Max gives his friend some pointers to help him pass the test because he is a better shooter than his partner. Later on, though, Guy gives him a private reprimand and advises him not to repeat the action because their superiors require discipline. Max works out vigorously at home while Guy tests his memory by asking him questions regarding the rulebook. They also spar occasionally. Max spends his leisure time hanging out with Rada, and finally they share a kiss. Max embarks on his first expedition into rebel territory when he is eventually admitted into the army. With the utmost ferocity, the soldiers crash inside the buildings, kicking and using bombs as they go. Max drops his gun in disbelief upon realizing that the so-called revolutionaries are merely scared regular people. A rebel emerges from cover and begins firing at them while the others are apprehending them. However, he is soon taken out and Chachu begins kicking him for amusement. After that, Max witnesses the savage arrest and forced into trucks of several regular people. Max responds that the phrase, degenerate, had led him to believe he would encounter ferocious creatures rather than merely impoverished people when Chachu questions him about why he dropped his weapon. Max clarifies that he doesn't feel any pain at all, but Chachu starts disparaging the rebels and calling them garbage, even though they acknowledge they experience agony like everyone else. Afterwards, as the rebels are being flashed with hot and blinding lights, the dads assess them. While some convicts disrespect the fathers by listing all the persons they have slain, others deny engaging in any rebellious activities. Some convicts are executed, while others are sent to perform daily tasks based on their attitude. A rebel demonstrates to them the prosthetic arm he was forced to receive after the guards slashed his, and the dads punish him by forcing him into a suit that burns his skin. Max must see it all and pretend not to be disgusted. Later on, he attempts to explain to Guy how absurd everything is, but Guy responds by defending the policies of his government. Max is so visible that Funk eventually locates him. Guy and Max are summoned to Chachu's office later that evening, so by the time Funk arrives at their residence, they have already left. Chachu takes Max to the forest and commands him to shoot the two rebels with death sentences because he wants Max to show that he is a faithful follower after what happened earlier. Pretending to shoot the rebels, Max leads them away but lets them leave instead. Then he approaches Chachu and declares his resignation. Chachu shoots Max out of rage while disregarding Guy's cries for forgiveness. After that, Max's lifeless body is left in the jungle as Chachu brings Guy back to the capital. The fathers are debating strategies to ultimately stop the insurgents' attacks in the meanwhile. But Umnik suggests he wants more battle by pointing out that now would be an excellent time to gather all of their guards into a massive army. The others support a full invasion, but they'll need to figure out how to convince people that war will resume, maybe by organizing a fictitious assassination attempt. Max's body heals quickly, so when the rebels in the forest find him in the evening, they are startled to learn he is still alive. Max describes the medical technology on Earth and notes that his people have no idea what a fatal wound is. The only way to stop him is to take a bullet to the head. In response, the rebels clarify that the towers aren't really for defense but rather are used to send out waves that brainwash people and that the fathers are dictators who seized control by force. They experience a patriotic frenzy twice a day at the same time because of this. Some people have seizures instead of these waves because they are immune to them, but the government's propaganda has labeled these people as degenerates, so that they can be found. The rebels put a stick in their mouths to prevent choking during their seizure at that very point when the towers began to send out waves. Umnik carries out the same private act in the city. Because of his earthling form, Max is completely painless, therefore he assists the rebels in getting through their ordeal. Max and the rebels then breached into tower territory by tearing down a fence. Max goes through the facility fearlessly, using his bare fists to bring down any soldier who dares to get in his way while the rebels begin fire on the soldiers and the alarm is sounded. While some rebels are slain, others attempt to hide behind walls so they can keep shooting the enemy until the very end. Before escaping, Max climbs beneath the tower, places a number of bombs, and throws a rope through the clothes hooks on every rebel, dragging them out with him whether or not they are still alive. Max's strength allows the party to flee to the forest just in time to prevent the explosion from bringing down the tower. Sadly, one rebel dies from his wounds, leaving Max and another man as the only ones who survive. Later on, Max returns covertly to the city and finds Rada, not realizing that a neighbor has saw him and reported him to the police. An altercation breaks out when Guy gets home, and Guy tries to eject Max. As soon as the authorities show up, Max rushes outside to protect the siblings and begins beating up the troops who are waiting. Although he works quickly and well, Max is forced to give up when Chachu kidnaps Rada. After that, ZF and the man with the metal arm are among the other inmates that Max is thrown into jail with. Strike visits Umnik in the interim, who purposefully has him sit on a chair that is so narrow that it causes discomfort for visitors as a kind of subtle punishment. Umnik oversees the re-education program, so Strike wants him to free Max so he may observe him. They talk about making an agreement. But when Strike departs, Umnik discovers from looking at Max's profile that he is seizure-free. Wanting that power for himself, Umnik orders his employee to kidnap Max and make it look like he mysteriously disappeared, and also to send Strike a message saying Max unfortunately died in action. In the morning, the prisoners are sent to the forest to clean, meaning they must pick up every weapon left by the war. Max's group suddenly sees a bunch of defense robots and immediately drops to the ground as the robots open fire, shooting in circles with no signs of stopping. The prisoners wait for the right moment to fire back, and one by one they bring down the robots until they're all destroyed. Then the group continues to search the area, and ZF teaches Max about the creature he saw when he arrived. He says they're dangerous mutated humans and should be killed on sight or they'll be killed first. After wandering for a while, ZF suddenly falls into a hidden hole, so Max jumps in to help him. They discover a series of underground tunnels and start walking through them until they find an old abandoned facility. After noticing a beast sneaking around in the shadows, they turn on the power and find some old equipment. While they get distracted looking into some lenses that show them the desert, the beast uses the chance to run out, and Max tells ZF not to shoot it. As the duo is horrified to notice human bones on the ground, the beast damages the equipment to cut the power before attacking. The beast manages to get ZF in a very strong hold, ready to bite him off, however Max is strong enough to fight it with his bare hands. After lots of struggle, he knocks the beast down, saving ZF just in time. Later while ZF is sleeping, Max takes off the ropes and lets the beast run away. ZF scolds him for it, but Max explains these beings aren't animals. The next morning, Max and ZF reunite with Metal Arm Guy and continue to search the area. Among the trees they find a small red tank stuck in a bunch of vines, and when they try to come closer, they're attacked by a black tank that moves freely. The group runs to hide behind the trees and tries to open fire, but their shots don't do anything to the tanks. Thankfully Max gets an idea. He shoots at the red tank to make it react, and when it tries to shoot back, it ends up bringing down the black tank instead. Then Max sneaks under it, and appears behind to climb inside, cutting the wires to make it stop. After sharing a meal with the others, Max announces he's escaping. There are security measures at the borders to stop the prisoners from running away, but Max gets inside the tank and drives it to the south as hidden mines explode around him without causing any damage. When Umnik learns Max escaped, he throws a tantrum in his office. Eventually Max finds a few soldiers guarding the road and is disgusted to see executed rebels nearby. He tries to stay hidden inside the tank, but rules dictate every vehicle must be searched. Max smiles when he sees the soldier jumping on the tank his guy and immediately drags him inside before pressing forward, destroying the gate and ignoring the other soldiers opening fire because they can't damage the tank. As they cross unknown lands, Guy is furious because they may be executed for this and tries to escape, but Max keeps him in the tank and promises him a much better life.